You know, when you walk into a massive modern skyscraper, there's this implicit, almost invisible trust at play. You don't pause in the lobby to inspect the steel beams, right?
Right, yeah, you definitely don't pull out a calculator to check the wind resistance.
Exactly. And you certainly don't question the foundational engineering. You just get in the elevator, hit floor 80, and we'll look at your phone. We just outsource our safety to these structures every single day without a second thought.
It's a very specific kind of psychological comfort. We trust the structure because it's tangible. I mean, it's imposing, it's made of concrete and steel, and it represents this huge consensus of human expertise. It feels permanent.
It feels completely permanent, solid, safe. But then you encounter a piece of writing, a worldview, really, that points a finger at that exact towering skyscraper and asks a deeply uncomfortable question.
Yeah, a very uncomfortable one.
What if someone walked up to you and said that building was about to collapse right now? Would you run or would you just laugh in their face? Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are taking you into a fascinating, intense, and highly allegorical text.
It really is.
It was written in August 2005 by an author named Xu Feng, and it is titled Responding to the Revelation, Finding the Way Out.
It is a remarkable piece of persuasive writing.
Hmm.
And what makes it so compelling is how it targets those exact psychological comforts we just mentioned.
It really does. So our mission today is to decode the striking, sometimes abrasive metaphors within this text. We want to uncover its core arguments about human nature, our deeply ingrained obsession with material wealth, and what the author sees as an absolutely urgent need for spiritual awakening.
Right.
But before we get into the weeds of collapsing buildings and ticking clocks, we should probably pause and set the framework for how we're approaching this.
Yeah, that's important. The author uses some very heavy religious vocabulary.
Right. There are explicit mentions of the greatest creator, references to the care of Jesus Christ and Buddha Shakyamuni, and it outlines a very specific solitary path to salvation.
And that is a crucial distinction to make up front. Because our goal here isn't to debate theology. We certainly aren't here to endorse or take sides on any specific religious doctrine.
No, not at all.
Instead, we are looking at this strictly as a masterclass in psychological persuasion. We are dissecting the mechanics of the argument itself. The text operates as a profound critique of modern human behavior, and analyzing how the author attempts to dismantle the reader's ego is fascinating regardless of your personal belief system.
Okay, let's unpack this because the text absolutely does not ease you in. It opens with this incredibly stark modern tragedy to explain an ancient human flaw.
Yeah, it goes right for the gut.
It really does. The author paints a vivid picture, a sudden lightning bolt, rolling thunder, a massive storm brewing, and then, abruptly, it brings up the collapse of the World Trade Center on September 11th.
Right.
The text poses this hypothetical scenario. If someone had warned the workers inside that this towering, world-class building was about to collapse, would they have listened? Or would they have said, nonsense? How could such a solid building fall?
The author is weaponizing an event that shocked the global consciousness. I mean, it was a moment where the seemingly impossible happened, and the text uses that collective trauma to challenge our everyday complacency. It's designed to immediately disarm the reader's sense of security.
I understand the rhetorical strategy, but I have to push back a little on the premise. Is the author being entirely fair to human logic here?
How do you mean?
I mean, from an evolutionary and practical standpoint, it is completely rational to trust a structurally sound skyscraper. If I'm sitting in my living room right now and someone bursts through the door screaming that the roof is going to spontaneously cave in, of course I'm going to demand proof.
Right, you'd think they were crazy.
Exactly. I mean, I call it nonsense. You can't just abandon all rational logic every time someone yells fire, otherwise society couldn't function.
That reaction you're describing, that demand for proof, is exactly what the author is putting under the microscope. What's fascinating here is that the text isn't actually criticizing human logic in the mundane day-to-day sense.
Oh, it isn't?
No, it's diagnosing a cognitive bias. In psychology, there's a concept called normalcy bias. It's the brain's tendency to disbelieve or minimize threat warnings because we assume things will always function the way they normally function.
Ah, okay. I see.
Yeah, so the author is using this extreme example to illustrate our ultimate blind spot regarding what the text calls the mysteries of the universe.
So it's about our inability to process anomalies. We think we figured the world out because we can build tall towers, so we assume the universe plays by our engineering rules.
It goes deeper than just engineering, actually.
Yeah.
The argument is that humans are overly confident in all human-made structures. That includes physical buildings, yes, but more importantly, it includes societal structures, economic systems, and our entire conventional paradigm of reality. Because we are so deeply invested in the permanence of what we have built, we become utterly dismissive of revelations that defy our immediate localized comprehension. The text suggests that our logic is actually a form of hubris that blinds us to larger cosmic realities.
That reframes things completely. It turns the skyscraper from a symbol of safety into a symbol of our own arrogance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is directly challenging you to look at your own life. What are the sturdy buildings in your worldview that you assume are indestructible?
Right, like is it your career trajectory?
Exactly. Your financial portfolio, your belief in unending societal progress. What systems do you rely on so heavily that you would instinctively laugh at warning signs of their collapse?
That is a very heavy mirror to hold up. And if we follow that thread, if we acknowledge that we trust our systems too much, the next logical question is, well, how do we evaluate warnings when they actually come?
Right, the messenger.
Yeah, the text shifts focus to this exact problem. It asks who is actually delivering the warning. The author describes a messenger of this greatest creator coming down to harvest the crops.
But not in the way you'd expect.
Not at all. Instead of appearing in the clouds with trumpets and undeniable glory, this messenger kneels down. He comes disguised as a commoner, effectively a lower-class person, begging people to respond to the revelation.
And the result?
He is mocked, ridiculed, and scorned by the public.
It's an incredibly subversive twist on the classic trope of the unrecognized prophet. The author is using this to expose a very specific flaw in how humans assign value to information.
But wait, I need to stop you there because, again, I'm looking at the practical mechanics of this. If the stakes are ultimate salvation, why send a commoner? It feels like a deliberate setup to make humanity fail.
Tell me more about that.
Well, let's say a billionaire wants to give away a massive fortune to strangers to save them from debt. They don't dress up in dirty rags, stand on a dark street corner, and whisper about free money.
Yeah, they'd hold a press conference.
Exactly. They hold a press conference, they set up a verified foundation. Why is the text blaming the people for wanting a credible source? Why punish them for not believing what looks, for all intents and purposes, like a random beggar?
That is a great analogy, but consider what the billionaire in your scenario is actually leveraging. They are leveraging human hierarchy.
Oh, status.
Yes. They're using their status to command attention. The author is doing something entirely different here. By making the savior a beggar, the author is deliberately triggering our social disgust response to bypass the ego.
Triggering disgust. How so?
Think about the evolutionary psychology of status. We are biologically wired to follow the alpha, to look up to authority figures dressed in fine clothes, to trust the person behind the podium.
Because it's safer.
Right, we do this because aligning with high status usually ensures survival in a tribe. But the text explicitly asks, what kind of person do you need to save you? The author argues that this biological instinct valuing status, wealth, and reputation is exactly what traps our soul.
So if we only accept truths when they are handed down by someone with a title,
We aren't actually worshiping truth. We are worshiping status.
we're judging the packaging, completely ignoring the contents.
More than that, we are proving that our primary allegiance is to human hierarchy, not to what the text capitalizes as life, the essence of existence.
Wow.
The author is arguing that divine truth does not, and should not, conform to human social ladders. Presenting the messenger as a commoner acts as a filter.
A filter for what?
It instantly filters out everyone who is blinded by superficiality. Only a person who is detached from the illusion of human status can recognize the intrinsic value of the message, regardless of the dirt on the messenger's clothes.
So if we reject the beggar because he lacks status, we are essentially proving that social rank is our false savior.
Exactly.
But status is fragile, right? So what's the ultimate guarantor of status in our world? Money. Which brings us to the author's next major argument. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text dives straight into a vibrant allegory about the other thing humans worship: wealth.
Yes, the pirate.
If people are blinded by status, what happens when they try to rely on their bank accounts for salvation?
This is where the text moves from social critique to examining our deep psychological reliance on resources.
The author tells this story about a notorious pirate. This guy has plundered countless ships, amassed huge treasures, but eventually his luck runs out and he gets captured.
It happens to the best of them.
Right, so he's standing in court, facing the gallows, and he tries to do the only thing he knows how to do. He tries to bargain with the judge.
The escalation in his bargaining is quite revealing about how the human mind operates under existential threat.
It is. First, he arrogantly offers the judge a third of his wealth to just let him go. The judge says no, life pays for murder.
So he panics.
Yeah, so the pirate panics and escalates. He offers all of it. He desperately tells the judge, my wealth is enough for the whole nation to spend for 3 years. He actually tries to use human logic on the judge, quoting a proverb.
Ah, right. The proverb about birds.
Yeah. People die for wealth, birds perish for food. Don't people love wealth?
The pirate operates on the ultimate transactional worldview. He genuinely believes that everything, even existence itself, has a price tag.
It's like someone trying to bribe a casino boss using chips they stole from that exact casino. It's completely absurd.
That is exactly it.
The judge shuts him down instantly. He tells the pirate that debts must be repaid, life pays for murder, and by the way, that wealth was plundered from others anyway, so it was never yours to begin with.
Right.
You're going to the gallows tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And the pirate just breaks down weeping, crying out, had I known that wealth couldn't spare my life, why did I strive so ardently to amass it?
That casino chip analogy is a great way to put it. But imagine if the casino boss isn't just rejecting the stolen chips. He's pointing out that the casino itself is currently on fire.
Oh, wow.
The pirate doesn't realize that the currency has lost all meaning because the entire context of reality has shifted.
The chips only matter if the game is still going.
Exactly. This raises an important question about the mechanism of wealth in our psychology.
Yeah.
Why do humans hoard? We use wealth as a buffer against mortality.
Right. Money buys medicine, shelter, security.
It gives us an illusion of control over death. The author uses the human legal system, the unyielding judge, as a stepping stone to illustrate cosmic law. The pirate is trying to use a localized earthly survival tool to negotiate with the absolute laws of the universe.
You can't write a check to buy your way out of cosmic justice.
You can't. And the author is stating that if human law, which is inherently flawed and made by men, cannot be bargained with in the face of murder, it is profoundly absurd to think that the laws of the greatest creator can be bribed with heavy, shiny stones.
Yeah.
The pirate's weeping regret is the author's ultimate warning against the illusion of control. The text is asking you directly when the final accounting comes, will the things you spent your entire life gathering have any intrinsic value at all?
That realization that your chips are worthless and the casino is burning is terrifying. And you feel that terror in the text because the pacing dramatically shifts right after the pirate story.
It really accelerates.
It abandons these thoughtful allegories and turns into a ticking clock emergency. The author starts firing off these rapid, almost breathless warnings. Don't wait for the torrential rain to start before you build an ark.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the Titanic to hit an iceberg to start looking for a life jacket. Don't wait to see the bombing plane flying overhead before you run out of the building. Because once you can see the destruction, it is already too late.
The structural transition is brilliant. It moves from diagnosing the disease to screaming that the patient has minutes left to live.
But reading this, I felt a massive sense of cognitive dissonance.
How's that?
With all this impending doom, the storms, the icebergs, the bombing planes, what exactly is the text telling the reader to do? It uses these massive abstract phrases. It says to discard conventional thinking and to advance at superluminal speeds, which sounds like a sci-fi novel.
It does sound a bit out there.
It says abandon all possessions. But practically speaking, in the real world, how do you do that? Where's the actual life jacket?
That confusion is intentional because the text is offering a paradoxical solution. All the warnings are of massive collective disasters. Sinking ships, collapsing towers, global storms.
Right.
Logically, you would think the solution to a collective disaster is a collective response. Form a massive group, build a giant community bunker, rally the herd. But the salvation presented in this text is radically, intensely solitary.
Solitary? How does that work when the ship is sinking?
The text explicitly commands the reader, don't look around, do not heed others' words, do not run with the crowd, do not feel lonely and forsaken.
That goes against every single human instinct during a panic. If a fire alarm goes off in a theater, we immediately look at each other to see what to do. We follow the herd to the exit.
And that herd mentality, according to the author, is exactly what gets you killed.
Yeah.
Think about this in the context of our modern attention economy. When a crisis hits today, what happens? Collective panic on social media. A frenzy of 24/7 news cycles. We doom scroll to see how the herd is reacting.
Oh, constantly.
The author argues that this external noise is the real danger. The text emphasizes that the key to opening the gates of heaven isn't a physical location, and it isn't held by a priest, a politician, or a trending hashtag.
The key is already in your hands. The text says you only need to ponder quietly and listen to the guidance of your inner spirit.
Yes. The superluminal speed the author mentions isn't physical travel, it's a psychological pivot. It's an instant light-speed detachment from the hysterical frequency of the crowd.
I see.
You save yourself from the collapsing building of society by realizing you aren't bound to it in the first place. You find life jacket by turning profoundly inward while everyone else is screaming at each other.
So, what does this all mean when a society utterly fails to make that internal pivot? Because the text doesn't stay abstract forever. It moves into this final major theme, presenting a very specific historical and cultural critique of a place it calls the Eastern Land.
Right, it maps out what happens when the herd never wakes up.
Exactly.
It dedicates a significant portion of the conclusion to a three-part condemnation of this Eastern land. It acts as a socio-spiritual timeline of failure.
Right, let's walk through it, because the mechanics here are fascinating. Phase 1. The land is vast, it has a sparse population and abundant resources.
Plenty of space.
But despite having plenty of space and unlimited wealth, the people are completely consumed by greed, deceit, and rampant killing. To cure this, the Tripitaka, which refers to the foundational Buddhist scriptures, is introduced to save them.
And then we move to phase 2.
Time passes. The land becomes densely populated, the resources dry up, the earth is thin. They ignore the holy scriptures, and despite the change in environment, they are still just as greedy, deceitful, and violent.
Which brings us to phase 3, the present moment and the author's view.
Yeah, phase 3 is bleak. The text says the people now disregard Buddhas and the greatest creator entirely. They are described as having ears but deaf, hearts but void.
Very evocative language.
Their hearts have turned to stone, and worst of all, they are superficially humble but inwardly arrogant. But looking at this structure, why this specific repetitive regional breakdown? They were greedy when they had endless space, and they were greedy when they were crammed together.
This raises an important question about cause and effect. The repetition isn't clumsy writing. It is a deliberate dismantling of environmental determinism.
Environmental determinism, meaning what?
Meaning our tendency to blame our circumstances for our moral rot. As humans, we constantly rationalize our behavior based on our environment.
Oh, like saying, if only we had more resources.
If only the economy was better, people wouldn't be so greedy.
Yes.
The author points to phase 1 and says false. You had abundant resources, unlimited space, and you still killed each other over it. Then we try the opposite excuse. Well, it's overpopulation and scarcity that make people act like animals. It's a survival mechanism. The author points to phase 2 and says, false. Even when crowded and poor, the exact same spiritual disease was present.
Wow. So the author's proving that the external environment, the hardware, doesn't matter because the software is corrupted.
That is the core mechanism of the critique. Material conditions, whether abundant wealth or a thin earth, cannot cure the soul. Furthermore, the author shows that simply delivering holy texts, like the Tripitaka, is completely ineffective if the people refuse to internalize it.
Yeah, if the people have ears but deaf, the truth bounces right off them.
Exactly. The corruption is entirely internal, and therefore the solution must be internal. It is a final, urgent warning that divine punishment isn't arbitrary cruelty. It is just the natural, inescapable consequence of being stubbornly disconnected from truth.
That is a brutally heavy indictment of human nature. But as intense as this text is, and it really holds your feet to the fire, it doesn't actually leave the reader in total darkness at the end.
It doesn't. If we synthesize the ultimate message here and look past the harsh judgments and the apocalyptic imagery of collapsing skyscrapers, the core philosophy is surprisingly grounding.
It is.
The text states, in the vast expanse of existence, life takes precedence. It makes a profound promise, actually. Even if you are lost in a limitless desert, merely choosing to retrace your steps will lead you back to the oasis.
Retracing your steps leads to the oasis. I love the mechanics of that metaphor. It implies that salvation isn't about learning some complicated new skill or building a new structure.
Not at all.
It's an act of remembering. It's stripping away all the sturdy, flawed systems you've trusted and returning to the essence of what you originally were.
It's a message of profound hope nested inside a severe warning. The righteous path, the inner key, is always available to you. You just have to discard the noise of the crowd and choose to walk it.
And that brings us back to you, listening right now. Whether you view this text as a piece of esoteric religious doctrine, a fascinating psychological study of urgency, or just a really harsh critique of modern materialism, it forces a mirror up to our faces.
It certainly does.
It makes us evaluate the sturdy buildings we are blindly trusting. Are we chasing the pirate's treasure, thinking it can buy off reality? Are we judging the messenger by his clothes instead of his message, just to protect our own ego?
It demands that we interrogate the foundational software of our own beliefs rather than just blaming the hardware of our environment.
Exactly. And so we want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over on your own. The author warns us not to wait until the Titanic hits the iceberg to start looking for a life jacket.
Yeah.
But in our modern world, a world of endless notifications, algorithmic outrage, and absolute information overload, how do you tell the difference between a real warning of a bombing plane and just another passing thunderstorm manufactured by the attention economy? What is the conventional thinking you might need to discard today to stop panicking with the herd and start building your ark?
A vital question for anyone trying to navigate the modern age.
Think about it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.